So we're out with Keith Costello in one of our Daytona seed crops. So we're just going to run through this crop here and some of the basics of establishment. And Keith, please do give us your opinion in terms of what makes for perfect pea establishment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, as we can see, this is a fairly even crop of Daytona peas. Drilled around about the 2nd of April. We're now coming up to the 4th node, and if we just dig down we can see the development on the root systems and a nodulation. A little bit of pigeon damage on the plant I'm digging up here, as you can see. So basically if we look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4th node, but we can see that we've had some damage from pigeons. And what's happening, the plant again is compensating by throwing out a side tiller. So again, away it goes. If we look at the root systems, although you can see the drilling depth here, I mean, I normally talk about drilling a minimum of probably 6 centimeters, but you know, if we have to go deeper than that, down to maybe 10 to get into moisture, we go to 10. But you can see here that was a good depth we went in with the seed into a nice friable seed bed. As you can see, it's breaking off there now. Sorry I haven't got the full root system, but already you can see on this one, and you can see all the nodulation on the roots now, which is great. And at this stage, about 4th node, the peas are just about ready, if it starts to warm up, to grow away rapidly. This field has also had some manganese put on. We're on fairly high pH soils, so if it's above 7 we would expect to see some manganese going on at least once or twice before we come to flowering. But it's a nice even crop.
Keith, where would you want to end up with regard to established plant populations in this large blue crop here?
For me, if we're aiming a plant stand of 75 on large blues is fine, providing that we've gone into a good seed bed. This is much more than that. Again, I think every seed we've planted here has grown. So if it's greater than that, that's a bonus. But I think sometimes we may get too heavy a seed rate, and I think we've got to be careful we don't get too heavy a seed rate, because as we get towards the flowering time and to pod fill, you know, if we find that we've got high populations but we haven't got the moisture and certainly the nutrients available for high populations, we could then start to see less peas being set in the pod and probably less pods on the plant. So to me, if you're aiming at 75 plants for blues, that's a good stand to go for.
And traditionally, thinking about row widths, we've mentioned drilling depth, but with regard to the width, a lot of drills now are going to wider rows, whether it's band sown in 30 centimetre spacings or 25 centimetres seems to be more popular. But we're here at a traditional 12.5 centimetre row spacing in this field. Any preference in what you like to see?
I think the common one now we're seeing is probably 12.5 to 15 centimetres, which are pretty standard sort of row, and that's fine. Although on some farms now, some of these drills, some of the growers are now trying out running at wider spacings of 25 centimetres, just to compare and see whether that helps. So at the moment I haven't seen enough crops to really say whether that's a good way to go, but I think we should look at all opportunities and different types of techniques and try to decide for each farm, basically with their equipment they've got, what what's best for them. But at the moment, I think traditionally we see the 12.5 to 15 centimetre row widths as being the standard. And say ideally if we can sow to 6 centimetres as minimum, but if you need to go deeper down to 10 where the moisture is, then that's what you must do. The most important thing is you have to sit that seed onto moisture, and hopefully it'll give it a good start.
Great.